not care as long as I'm hitting my yield rates and, and I'm getting students into the class and, all is good. But when you start talking about dollars and cents and revenue and, top line and bottom line, all those things really start to matter. And if you don't have a good understanding of that foundation, you're really throwing spaghetti against the wall or gum against the wall, whatever you want to use. But that's really key to your point, is understanding that infrastructure and looking internally at your assets.
So much to unpack, but a couple things that I'm really curious about, and this one's going to be a little funny, but I have to ask this question. We're all in this together, right, to a certain extent, and then, things will become more and more competitive, right? How much can you share with our audience in terms of, how you guys turned up the intensity in terms of actively recruiting through the pandemic?
Yeah, this is gonna sound funny, or funny answer. The first thing I thought when I heard work from home was screen time, right? Mm-hmm. So we doubled our social media output on the first day, right? Because now I'm on the screen, I'm at home, I'm transitioning. I'm guilty of it myself. Right before this meeting, I took out my phone. I opened up a social media just to check it, to see how Claremont Lincoln was doing today. I wouldn't maybe have done that. If I was in the office, I'd probably be up at the water cooler having a conversation. And so now you multiply that screen time. And so I think the answer to that is, your brand has to be available. And where are people? They are online. They are online on their computer all day. I don't know about you guys, but I barely get up from my chair, right? When I'm at the office, I'm up all the time. Here, I literally never get up. I even have my wife, my wife will bring me coffee. I don't even get up to get my own coffee sometimes. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. I've been sitting all day. I've checked my phone 40 times. So, that it's a silly answer, but it's like, the first thing that you could do that costs you $0 is up your social media activity. Double it, triple it. Think about, how many Facebook posts, how many Instagram posts do you do a day? Do you even have a schedule of social media output? But if you have one post a day, make it 2 posts a day, make it 2, make it 5. That you do with $0. That's no ad spend. That's just pure branding and pure recognition. So, I think that, I don't want to say that's a cop-out answer, but I think that's the simplest, freest answer that I could possibly give to that is, when there is a student that wants to go to graduate school, I am going to try to make sure they see Claremont Lincoln University. Even if I don't have to spend another dime doing it, I want to be in front of them. And I'm going to geo-target and do all that kind of stuff that's more technical piece. But I've got to have enough content. So content.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great point, too, because like you mentioned, screen time's going up. And there's more impressions out there, more people viewing the content. And, at the same time, it's not like Facebook where you're bidding on a keyword level. So if all the universities are in there, it's going to increase your cost. I mean, Facebook across the board, we've seen the cost come down 20, 30%. So it's this crazy time where if you have the thought process and the confidence in your conversion on the back end, you can crank it up. You can get way more impressions for a lower cost. And you can be one of the few advertisers that are on there. So it's a great time to jump in, and excited to hear that you basically first day said, hey, this translates to screen time. What am I going to do? I'm going to double or triple my Facebook ad spend, because most people that I talk to, their reaction is, well, look, I'm going to keep Google on because that's direct response and it's a lower cost per lead, and I'm going to turn my Facebook off. Yeah. Right, which is the opposite of what you need to do, but that's kind of the reactionary thought for a lot of folks.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, and I give examples here. I happen to be, because we won that award at the AMA, I'm on a Facebook group, AMA Higher Ed Marketers. And so yesterday, one of the people, and these are just like general group post something about how her school, and I won't say, they have 11 different Facebook and Instagram accounts. 11 Facebook, 11 Instagram, one for each school in each program, right? School of this program. And I thought to myself, the question from the person was, how, is it better to have more accounts or less accounts? And I'm going, how do you ever control something like that? You're just crushing your messaging by splitting it 11 ways, and you just think about the basics. And those are the types of things that I'm talking about when I talk about the blocking and tackling. These are basic things that you should have control of, so that when something like this happens, you're leveraging for growth, not trying to scramble to compete. I think that's really what we see happening, right? I mean, schools are closing. There's been, really small, sometimes religious schools closing already. We're seeing some mergers. It's starting to. It will continue to happen. Fall hasn't happened yet, and they're predicting, some schools, like I said, a 30% reduction in the overall number of students. What happens then? I mean, we're just going to see, it's those schools that have that forward thinking. Online is not going away. It's not going away. Online's the future. It's been accelerated. COVID-19 has only accelerated the future, not, given us a picture and what the future will look like in terms of learning. And, there's a thought that businesses will now enter the market, or large tech companies will enter and partner with universities, which I'm not so sure of, but there's a lot of thought out there. And, I think at this point we're all experts, but none of us know what we're doing. So we're all trying to make our way through it.
Other thing I wanted to unpack is, and you touched on this, and I know this could probably be a whole podcast in and of itself, but the difference between remote learning versus online learning, right? Could you share, our philosophy, your insight on that?
Man, nothing frustrates me more, because, I grew up in online space. I'm going to be going on my 20th year of working online, back to the early 2000s, when online learning was really distance education, is what we used to call it before it was true online learning, because it was a hybrid, go to school all week and then come in on Saturday and do your hands-on. And then it turned into the Saturday eventually evaporated and they moved everything online. So I'm very passionate about online learning. There will be nothing more important to getting our economy back on track than online learning. Accessibility for how many millions of unemployed people that want to upskill right now. Where are they going to get that quick upskilling? That 3 week to 6 week to 3 month to 6 month upskilling that's going to help them retool and get a job. So there's nothing that's going to be more important than online learning to getting us all back to work when this is all over. So that's number one. But schools, you see on Twitter, if you guys are on Twitter, you'll see posts about, I'm on, this online, I've paid a Harvard tuition for, University of Phoenix online education. And it's this big joke about online education. It's not a joke. In fact, it's better than on-ground education in some respects. But it has to be designed for the online space. You can't take a on-ground product and move it online without design and expect that students are going to roll into it and everything's going to be fine. I mean, if you look at infrastructure for retention, the basics. What does orientation look like? I was thinking about this last night when I was having trouble going to sleep. Think about orientation for a new student that goes to an on-ground university. They go to a attendance hall. Somebody comes on and says, here's where you go to register for classes. Here's where you go for financial aid. Here's your dining hall. What's online orientation look like for an online student? It's here's where your class is. Click on this button if you want to, access the library. You can't take this and move it to that. So, if you talk to anyone, I'll give you two really good examples. On our podcast, The Edip Experience, we had two university presidents, Scott Pulsifer from Western Governors University and Dr. David Harpool from North Central University, all online, right? Both were very passionate about the big difference between online learning and remote learning. You can't take a product that's for on-ground and move it online and expect that you're going to have rave reviews about it. And so as people are classifying this really as online learning, there's a big mistake. I'm seeing it happen in K-12 too. I mean, I've got, family members with kids that are going, oh man, my daughter's just having so much trouble with this online learning. And I'm going, it's not online learning when the teacher sits there and goes in a circle with the 20 students and says, what's your favorite color? That's not online learning. So design is so important, guys. And, I think we have to be very careful that we understand the distinction between remote learning / virtual learning and true online designed learning.
Oh, that's a heck of a take. Because I think also a lot of people are probably, to your point, they're not going to want to go back to the traditional learning And if they haven't really evolved to really delivering the online product, then they're really even going to struggle more so when things start to, kind of get more competitive, and now everyone's trying to, compete for the same student. So I think that's a heck of a point. I know one of the things we talked about even before the podcast was leadership in higher ed and the non-traditional path. Could you give us your thoughts there, your insight there?
This is a call this an opinion more than I have proof of it. But I think we're going to see this shift happen over the next couple of years, and that's simply this. A university president has been mostly focused over time and hired based on their ability to fundraise. Right? When you look at traditional university presidents, one of the biggest role or responsibility line items is you're working the community and you're getting donations and you're building up an endowment. Now you have COVID-19, and we will always have COVID-19 and its consequences. And so I believe a lot of that money that would be donated with an education is going to shift to healthcare. There's already a lot of money that's gone to healthcare, and I think people, when they're thinking about donating $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, are going to be looking at COVID-19 and its effect long term rather than donating to the university. That's just my personal opinion. Take that piece, but let's say that I'm wrong. Let's say there still is some dollars out there for fundraising. There will never be enough to sustain a university. And when I say a university, who I'm not talking about are the ones that already have more endowment than the majority of the countries in the world, right? Those universities are going to be fine. Harvard, 10 billion, Johns Hopkins, 6 billion. Yeah, they're going to be fine, even though they're not paying employee retirement accounts right now, regardless. So those universities are going to be fine. Who's not going to be fine are the universities that have a year of operating expense. There's not going to be enough dollars out there fast enough to sustain it. So what do you need? You need students, and you need them more than ever. So what does the university president and top-down leadership begin to look like moving forward? In my opinion, it's your deep marketing and enrollment operations expert, rather than your provost that moved from vice president of a program or dean of a program to provost to now university president. I think that as a typical path to leading university is now going to be atypical. You're going to see a lot of people coming out of student affairs, marketing and enrollment that are going to be getting to the highest level. Operations, deep operational experience, building capacity, active recruitment, marketing, understanding competitive landscape. Before you go and you create a program, should you look at Google search first and see if anybody's even looking at going to a program like the one you're going to make, instead of just creating a program and trying to sell it. So I think there's going to be a big shift. Also, I think transparency and activity on social media is going to be absolutely key for any university leader today. Why choose this university over that one? Well, it could be because the president of this university is on Twitter, is on Instagram, telling you about this university. You could contact them on social media and they will respond to you. And that's going to be a big difference because you guys know as well as I do, the average consumer listens to reviews more than they listen to experts, right? And so the interaction with the leader is going to be very important. And I think that shows transparency and ethics in operations, which have been not so great in higher education. And with the decision making coming out soon, whether to open or not open, ethics and ethical implications are really a hot item more than ever right now because of our contribution to infection rates and so on if we make the wrong decisions in higher ed. So I think you're going to see a shift in the skill set of university presidents as they move forward.
So you're saying George may realize his dream and become a chancellor or a provost, huh?
You know what? I'll tell you right now, you take a university that's in trouble, and just from the little bit that I've talked to George, and you sit him in that chair, trouble becomes a lot less trouble and more potential. And it's because if you don't understand where to put those dollars, if you think that you're just going to sit back and everything's going to be okay, you're sorely mistaken. And if you have somebody at the top that understands marketing and enrollment and trends and yield and CPS, and it's just a huge advantage in the new marketplace.
Yeah, I think it's a great point on reviews too. I look at a lot of colleges, 30, 40,000 students enrolled a year. And when you type in their brand term, what shows up? Google Maps, and they have 15 reviews.
Yeah.
Right? How does a university with 30,000 students a year have 15 reviews on Google?
Yeah.
You know, like just